Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias. So, I picked up this knife about 5 years ago, was very excited, showed you a very short video about it, and said I would come back and talk to you about it again. Well, I did talk briefly about it in a comparison video where I showed it compared to a Queen toothpick. But I really never got around to discussing this actual toothpick. What we have here is a large toothpick by W.R. Case & Son. And by large, I mean really large, because this is also a large toothpick by Queen. This is on a 5-inch frame. This is on a 5.5-inch frame. Now, Queen also does make a 5.5-inch frame toothpick, but I believe it was normally shown in the Shatton Morgan line by Queen, and I do have that. And I'm going to show a little bit of the similarities between the 5.5-inch Shatton Morgan with the Case toothpick. And the main reason I'm going to do that is because a lot of people suspect that the reason Case no longer makes this toothpick is because they were actually being outsourced, or at least parts of it were being outsourced through Queen Cutlery in Titusville, Pennsylvania. And when Queen closed, basically the parts for these knives was no more. Is there any truth to that rumor? I really don't know. I do know, however, that it was not uncommon for knife companies to have other companies make parts for them when it was a pattern that they did not normally make. And this is a pattern that Case really stopped making all the way back in the 1940s. And then sometime in the early 2000s, like 2005 to 2010 or so, they decided to come out with these large toothpicks again, and it was on a 5.5-inch frame. And that 5.5-inch frame does look remarkably like that of the Shatton Morgan. Now, the blade is significantly different than what Shatton Morgan had. But let's take a look at the two frames, and we'll see what I'm talking about. If you can see there, the overall profile of those frames is nearly identical. If we put that one behind there, see how well it just hides behind there. Flip this over, and now you can't see the case frame. That's how close they are. It is like same parts. So they might have been getting parts for the frame of the knife from Shatton Morgan or from Queen. However, if you look at the blades, those are quite a bit different. Now, was it basically just reprofiling a blade that was provided by Shatton Morgan? I don't know. In any case, W.R. Case & Son did come out and say they're no longer producing this knife, and they have no plans on producing it in the future. And that is something they have stuck with for several years now. The idea of a large toothpick is just not something they're going to do anymore. Now, the one here is done in Mediterranean blue bone. I think this might be Crandall jig or something. What I really liked about it was the shield here. Notice that the shield is basically the word Case, but it is the 4 letters all separate. It's basically a long tail C and then the ASE there, opposite side, really nicely matched and everything. The one problem that people would have with this knife is right there. You can see it. The blade centering is anything but exact. It doesn't quite hit, but it's very close to hitting on the side. And you got that wonderful long blade on here. And I don't know, as a person who loves to collect large toothpicks, this was one that was definitely on my list of knives that I needed to have. But I was not going to pay the price that most people were asking for it. Even back then, the going price for these knives, this is let's see, 5 years ago. So back around 2020, 2019, somewhere around there, the asking price for these knives was typically $200 to $300. And when they were going on open bidding, they often went for $200 to $300. So it was not a knife you could get for a low price. I managed to snag this one with a low bid, and like I said, this is the Mediterranean blue. You can see there the born date for it was 2/18/2009. The pattern number for these, by the way, is a 610098. And what I've heard often is the ones that have that extra zero thrown in there, the 00 in the middle, that usually does refer to knives that, again, this is rumor. I have no idea if there's any truth to it or not. But I've heard that when you see those double zeros in a case knife, typically what they're talking about is something that is irregular, in that the frame or some parts of it are not actually made in the case factory. If that's true or not, I really don't know. I don't have all the industry secrets in front of me or not. This is just things that I have heard and read from different places. Now, the main reason I was showing this now is, surprisingly, I came across another large toothpick, and as you can see here, 6.510098 LGBT. I think this is the bone toasted stag. So bone stag, we know it's bone stag from the 6.5 there. And here is the knife. And I got this one for less than I paid for this one some 5 years ago, because the person who was selling it did not know what they had. And they just were dumping their case knives. So I was not about to turn away from it. Right there is probably the only problem with it. There is a little splotch of something there that I got to scrape off. But you can see there, beautiful bone stag. And look at this side and look at that side. The toasting on the two sides is almost perfect. It's so nicely matched. That shield is sunk deep into that one groove. It is just like perfectly set into that. It's just a gorgeous knife. And the centering on this knife, unlike the other one, can you see that? Almost right down the middle. This knife is just like gorgeous. And there we go. Look at the long, sleek blade going on there. This is just a wonderful piece and a great addition to my collection. Let's compare it here to a knife that is closer to it than the other case knife, and that is the Shatton Morgan and the worm groove here. I think it might be Winterbottom also, they call it, where you can see there, and now it even looks closer. But yeah, I'm just very over the moon with this one. This is really cool. I was so happy to get it. You know, I was thrilled to get this one when I first got it, to the point where I was even okay with that blade that is anything but perfectly centered. I have thought about getting it better centered, you know, doing something to do it, but these knives are so scarce, I'd hate to try and straighten the blade and break it. But I got this one now, and oh wow, just gorgeous. I'm really happy with it. And for comparison, let's take a look at other, let's take a look at my other medium toothpick from Case, and we can see the difference in sizes. So this is my 6.510094 medium toothpick. So at 4 1/4 inches, it is 1 1/4 inches shorter than the large toothpick. Blade shape is pretty much the same. The blade profile is that same long California clip that Case is very famous for. You can see it right there. They call it a muskrat blade, but it's hard to call that a muskrat blade on this knife. But it is pretty much the same blade that you see on a muskrat knife. So 4¼ inches long and bone stag. The interesting thing about this knife also is, if you heard the number, 6.510094. So this is a 0094. They're still making it today. This was a 0098. They are not making it anymore today. But that kind of, to me, dispels that whole rumor that, well, if you see the 00 in the middle, it means that the knife is being outsourced. Somebody else is making the frame, or somebody else is making the knife for a case, it's being built under contract. Because the toothpicks all seem to have the 00 in the middle. You got the 0094, the 0098, and then also the small toothpick. And this is a 610096. Small toothpick, or tiny Texas toothpick they call it. This is in the Carhartt series. And you can see now we have stepped down again by 1¼ inch. So 3 inches, 4¼ inches, and 5½ inches. So that's kind of cool, the way they went up in size by 1¼ inch with each size, with each bump in size. And well, as you can see here, I don't have a 6.510094, so I don't have a bone stag 6.5 bone stag tiny toothpick. So I might have to remedy that, so I at least have one of each in each size here, because then I'd have the tiny Texas, the medium, and the large all in bone stag. That would be pretty cool. So I think I know what my next tiny toothpick is going to be, a bone stag toothpick by W.R. Case & Son, just because I managed to find this one. Oh, and by the way, the price I got this one for was truly a steal. I know a lot of people say that's not a steal, at least to them, but at $125, this was a really good deal. Like I said, they usually go for around $200 to $300, and bone stag usually is one of those knives that sells for more than your typical average toothpick or average case knife. The 6.5 bone stag it sells almost as well as the stag does. Not quite as valuable as like one of the exotics in pearl or something, but definitely a beautiful knife, at least if you're in the toothpicks. So I'll have to get the tiny Texas toothpick next, so I'll have the full setup, and when I do that, I will probably put out another video. But I was like over the moon when I managed to finally get a large toothpick for the collection. That was 5 years ago. But now to have one in 6.5 bone stag, that really just thrills me to no end. And the fact that I will probably be able to get a bone stag tiny Texas toothpick with very little problem means I will be able to get one of each. So that's pretty cool too. I'll have a nice it'll be like the star of my bone stag collection, which, by the way, tends to steadily grow. So I'm pretty happy with that too. I know toothpicks are not for everybody, and I know a lot of people are just are not thrilled with W.R. Case & Son, but well, I guess you'll just have to indulge me on this one. I really do like these, and this is like words can't describe how much I really like this knife. This is just so cool. Yeah. Anyway, I will let you go. Stick around for some slides. Let me take just a second to thank you once again for dropping by and spending a few minutes here at Knife Chats with Tobias. I really do appreciate it, and I do appreciate any comments that you leave. So please remember to give me that thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up and running. Thanks again for dropping by. Really do appreciate your time here.